Hi everyone, it's Elmar from the product management team. I want to give you a short overview regarding our test management and test planning capabilities. And I will start with a couple of slides and then we'll jump directly into the tool. Test planning is sounds pretty old school because when you talk about test planning, people tend to think about stuff like this, like heavy processes that are roughly defined and are strict to follow because otherwise it's something bad is going to happen. Obviously, such a approach is not working anymore when it comes to agile and DevOps environments, like fast-paced development approaches. So we need something more modern, something more lightweight. But the question is, what is this lightweight approach to test planning? So that's our view on test planning and test management in general. As you know, in Tosca we have all kinds of activities that you can do. You can do test case design, you can execute, you can do requirements management, test case specifications, service utilization, test data management, and so on and so forth. But we added one key capability to this whole test management story, namely test planning. So that's a new component in Tosca where you can actually plan your whole test process. It doesn't necessarily need to be related to activities within Tosca. It can be basically any activity that is relevant for your testing process or for a testing project. So that's our view on test management. It's doing all the activities, but also planning the activities and all the outside factors regarding testing activities, having people available, having environments ready, and so on and so forth. So you can do all those kind of, you can plan all those kind of activities. And for the test planning section, we actually chose a session-based approach, similar to what we already have in exploratory testing. Why? Because this session-based approach is just flexible enough to cover both fast-paced projects as well as classical projects, and even mixtures. So you can even iterate and choose your own approach within those kind of development approaches. And it also is easy to cover the whole process. So it's, as I said, not necessarily related to any activity, but it's just covering the whole process. And that's just one more slide to illustrate what I meant before. Saying you have, for example, Scrum, Kanban, Waterfall, everything is present in your environment, and every team is basically using their own kind of way to do things, and they choose their own approach. That's something that you cannot avoid. But with our solution, it is easy to switch between the approaches, and every team, every project can use their own interpretation of whatever Scrum or Kanban or whatever. So that's actually it from the slide perspective. So let's just jump into the tool directly. As mentioned, test planning is a new section within Tosca, so it's a separate component. And I already prepared some sessions here. Basically, what you have is you have sessions, which are basically time boxes. They have a start and an end date. You can add people to a session. You can specify tasks for a session. So let's just create one. So if you let's maybe just create a new folder and a new session. And you see, it's basically, of course it has an owner. By default, it's the guy who is actually creating the session, but you can, of course, if there are more users available, you can also switch it. It has a start and end date. So let's say it starts today. So it's still European time. So let's say it starts at, 6 p.m. So you can just set the time box when it's going to start and then and end, and tomorrow at 6 p.m. it's done. And of course it had a state. So the purpose of the session is on one hand to plan the activity, to say, okay, within this time box, 1 day, 2 weeks, whatever time box it is, I want to execute a certain set of tasks. And on the other hand, it's meant for tracking activities that you planned before. So each and every task has its progress or status, and this is propagated onto session level. So maybe let's look at one example. So I here have an agile project which I used to model a couple of sprints. So here you see that we have 3 sprints, each is 2 weeks, and we also have some milestones. So at some point we start with implementation, and at some point after 3 sprints we want to release. What you get is, let's look at this one, or let's take this one. We have more people in there, so you can add a bunch of people to the session. So those 6 guys are actually meant to do something within the time box, and you can also define a bunch of tasks. So one task could, for example, be just to create an execution list, and it just says, okay, please create an execution list, and don't forget to do this and that update on the execution list. So that's the level where, on which you plan. So you add the people, you define the tasks. Next step is to distribute the work. So you can assign each and every task to a guy. And for example, let's look at my user. I have a couple of tasks assigned to me. I already started to work on some, so some are already completed. Something is in progress, and this is not even touched yet. And I can also say how much time I invested. So this is meant for like tracking the actual work the actual time that was invested for. It's then easier for recurring activities to say, okay, last time we invested 5 hours, next time it's maybe the same on the same level. So in this way, each and every tester or each and every person that is invited to the session knows what he or she is supposed to do. So I know I have to execute those kind of tasks. And of course you can add a description and an attachment to all of those tasks to describe in more depth what it is. So you can, for example, link Tosca artifacts. So if, for example, for this execution list, you can say, okay, please use this and that folder or whatever artifact in Tosca. And of course you can also link external files to the session. And so that's one thing. So you can add all the people and the tasks, distribute the work. But you will also get an overview. So you will see here how your sessions align over time. So here we see it's a couple of sprints that are just 2 weeks long, and it's like one after the other. And you see that there is already something going on. So sprint 1 is already done. So people are pretty fast. It just started today, basically. So here you see that sprint 1 is already done. There is already something going on in sprint 2, so maybe some preparation work or something is already happening, and sprint 3 is not even touched yet. So there's no activity going on, which is in this case not an issue because it's just way in. It's too far in the future anyway. So that's what I meant with regarding the reporting and the overview. So you see what's the state of the session, and you also see. Let's go to the sprint 2 again. You also see for each and every tester in which state it is, and for each and every task in which state it is, so you can track what's going on, if you're on track or not, and so on. And the last thing I actually want to show you is, of course you can, I just have another workspace where I'm logged in as this user Elmar. So let's just switch to this workspace. So let's assume that there is one guy planning the sessions and setting everything up, distributing the work. So what's going to happen if I'm one of the guys that is actually supposed to do something? So if I log in, I can just press update all, for example. So I get all the new artifacts in, and next to the test planning section, we also introduced the My Work area. So here you see which activities, which tasks, which sessions are actually assigned to you, or to which you're actually meant to contribute. And this is basically an overview for you, because you can be present in many sessions and many people are inviting you, so you see what's going on, what's already done, and you can easily just set the state here. But in order to show that, I need to check in first on this side. So the idea is that you, as a tester, if you already know what this task is all about, you can just do it here in your personal area. So you don't need to go through the whole tree into the session. So you can just say, okay, today I was working on this. I ran the regression. I'm now done. Everything is fine. I also show the completed again. Here I had some progress already. and here this thing, schedule CI, I want to jump to it because I need to have a closer look at that. So obviously there isn't that much information, so I maybe need to go back to the session owner and ask him, hey guy, what is this all about? So this is meant as an easy entry for the tester themselves. So they have an overview about their work, and if I've just as an example set everything to completed here, and just check it in again. Sorry, wrong button. Was too fast. So if I just check it in again and assume that this guy admin is monitoring the session, so he would now see, okay, Elmar is already done. So very nice. We already have some progress on the session. So things are happening. We're on track. Everything is fine. So that's an easy way to track activities and tasks. And why is it so flexible? Because it's just time boxes. And time box can be a couple of hours, can be weeks, can be whatever, months, whatever you like. So it's up to you basically how you set this up. If each sprint is a time box or each user story is a session. So it depends on the way, on the approach that you're using. And so it's flexible enough to cover basically any kind of approach and mixtures of approaches. So with that, I think that's everything I wanted to show you. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Jira integrations with this?
The question was if there is a Jira integration for that. Not yet. We're already in contact, and we're already discussing it with Tasktop to add it to Task Connect. So that's on the roadmap. We're working on that, but it's not yet available, but it will come. Yeah. Sorry? Yes, you can use it for reporting as well. That's actually something that I didn't show. Thanks for the for the hint. I somehow missed that. So you can also build your own views here within this component. So let's say tasks and sessions that you're interested in are spread over many projects, and you want to have an overview about like 2 or 3 projects. You can build your own view, and what you can do with this, basically, you can just link any sessions or milestones that you're interested in into this folder, and this will give you an overview just about this subset. So you don't need to go into the whole bunch of things that the teams defined. But you can just say, okay, I'm interested in this case here, just in the sprint 1 and the SAP test cases, and in the kickoff and the release. That's everything I'm interested in. Whatever other stuff they do, I don't really care. And you get the same thing here. You get this like view, this is overview, and you get all the details here regarding those artifacts that you're interested in. Okay, one more.
What version is this available in?
That's actually available since 11.0, and we enhanced it with 11.1 as well. So we're currently we're frequently working on that. One thing that is actually also interesting regarding this is in this My area we also added the bookmarks. So you can just bookmark objects in order to have a bookmark and an easy way to jump to it. So that's also within the My work area here. So with this, I think I'm already over time. So if there are any more questions, we can take it offline maybe, because Gavin is already waiting. So thanks for your time. Thanks for joining the session, and see you again in 15 minutes.